Well, this week we saw one key player in Georgia's politics toss his hat into the ring to be the state's next governor. We got to talk about, when we talk about local politics, we want to bring in 11Alive Zach Merchant. He knows all about it, the co-host of Georgia's Take. And Zach, we're talking about Burt Jones here. What does this mean for the race?
Well, it means just right off the bat that a long wait is now over. It's kind of the cliche almost at this point, but it's been said a lot. The worst kept secret in Georgia politics is that Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who is a Republican, was going to launch a campaign for governor. It's been whispered about and rumored for months, if not, pushing a year plus now. Now it's official. He's in this race. He launched it on Tuesday, and it means that a serious heavyweight candidate has now entered the Republican primary, and it also means that somebody who has aligned himself closely with and allied closely with President Donald Trump is now in this Republican primary.
You talked with Jones in his first TV interview after he made his campaign launch. What did he have to say?
We covered a lot of ground. Some of the things that stood out are in some ways, he's kind of tracking this two-pronged approach through his campaign launch. On the one hand, he's got a lot of real conservative issues that he's talking about and that he has legislated on in his time as lieutenant governor, and then before that in the state senate. Things like transgender sports bills, things like what he would call a crackdown on illegal immigration. He says he describes himself as a strong supporter of law and order and law enforcement. But in our conversation, he also pointed to what he said and he described as kitchen table issues, things like the economy. And one of his biggest campaign proposals so far is a proposal to completely eliminate Georgia's state income tax.
And he's running on that, and that's a big one.
It is, yeah. It's not like we can talk to every single person in the state, but just in kind of passing conversations, that's the thing that people. I just got my hair cut this morning at the barbershop. The guy who was cutting my hair, he said, "Hey, yeah, I heard about that. There's this candidate who wants to cut the state income tax." It's getting a lot of attention. Of course, Georgia law requires that legislators every year pass a balanced budget. So if you get rid of the state income tax, you're losing a lot of money coming in state revenue, right?
Yeah.
So how do you pay for it? How do you offset it? We asked Jones that in our interview. You can see his answer, as always, coming up this Sunday on the Georgia Vote.
Has anybody since then, Zach, that you've talked to, and I know you just talked to him, but has anybody else that has entered the race already kind of mentioned the state income tax?
He is he's the first that's really pushed this, who's in the race, although Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a conservative Georgia congresswoman, she has talked about this issue as well. And it's notable, she's not in this race, right? I mean, she's not, but she has not ruled out entering the governor's race either. She said earlier this year that she's not going to run for Senate, which is another big Georgia race that we're going to be talking about a lot over the campaign season to come. She has not yet ruled out a run for governor. She hasn't said she's doing it either.
Right.
But it's something to watch. And we should point out, too, just as we're talking about this Republican primary, Attorney General Chris Carr is also in this race. This week was kind of dominated by conversation about Burt Jones because he's the newest candidate. Attorney General Chris Carr, he's been in this race since last year. He's a Republican as well. We're going to start to see these two, now that the field has two real prominent candidates, start to see them jockey a little bit.
Yeah. We got our first real look at some of the finances behind some of the most prominent candidates. What stood out to you, Zach?
A lot of money, particularly on the, that's a lot of money in politics, right? We talk about this a lot, and it seems to just get more and more expensive. Burt Jones is the early fundraising leader with a little bit, I don't want to say a caveat, but just something, a footnote to keep track of. His campaign announced he's got about $14 million cash on hand right out the jump. $10 million of those dollars came from Burt Jones himself in a loan that he gave to his campaign. So he brought in about $4 million, give or take, from outside donors. Chris Carr, his other really prominent opponent in the Republican primary, over the course of his campaign so far, he's brought in about $3.5 million. Then you look over on the Democrat side, State Senator Jason Estevez, former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, and State Representative Derek Jackson, they're all in this race. Bottoms and Estevez both raised about $1.1 million. Jackson was about at $100,000. Keisha Lance Bottoms, we should point out, she also loaned her campaign some money. Not $10 million like Burt Jones. She loaned about $200,000 of her own money.
Gotcha. All right. Anything else we should be watching for this week?
Yeah, a whole lot. It was a busy week in politics. This week we've got interviews with both the chairmen of the State Democratic Party and the State Republican Party, reflecting and discussing the impact of the big, beautiful bill. We also have an interview with State Senator Sally Harrell. Last week we talked with her Republican counterpart in the State Senate, Ed Setzler, about Georgia's heartbeat bill, also known as the Life Act. It's a bill that restricts access to abortions. This week, State Senator Sally Harrell, who is a Democrat, gives the Democrats' perspectives. You can imagine it is different from the conservatives' perspective on this. We always want to reflect all the viewpoints in Georgia politics. You can see it this weekend.
Yep. All right, Zach, always learn a lot when I talk to you, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, Chesley. We'll see you.
All right. You can watch Georgia Vote with Zach and Faith Jesse Sunday morning at 11 o'clock right here on 11 Alive Plus.